Debbie's on now.
Okay, you are now live.
Welcome everybody to the Tuesday, April 6th council meeting. With that being said, I would like to call the meeting to order. And I would like approval of the agenda for the April 6th, 2021 Stone Mills Council meeting. Moved by Sherry, second by Doug. Any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Conflicts, any conflicts of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Showing none. And I'd like approval for the March 15th Stone Mills regular council meeting as presented.
So moved.
So moved by Debbie, second by Sherry. All in favor? Any questions or any comments first? I guess we're all in favor. Motion carried. Delegations, deputation, okay, bylaws and resolution. I'm looking for the motion for the first, second, third reading of the road closing of the bylaw Wayland.
Question?
Well, we've got to get a motion moved by John, second by Kevin. Any question, comment? Go ahead, Kevin.
Where is this Whalen one? I remember the name, but it doesn't say where it is. I think it just says it's in Sheffield lot and concession. Which one was that? Can somebody refresh me on that one?
Yeah, I can speak to that, Councillor Richmond. It's 38G Cemetery Road, White Lake. It was brought forward in 2018. It was approved, and then we're just finally getting to the point where we can bring the bylaw forward. The lawyers have finally completed their work with the estate for the ways, and this is the bylaw to close the road allowance to transfer it to the ways.
And where was that? Where was it, Cindy?
It's in Aaronsville, White Lake. It's 38 Cemetery Road.
Up along the lake.
It's right bordering right on White Lake.
Okay, thank you.
By the graveyard there. Come down
Right.
there, yeah. Okay, so any more questions, comments? All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. And then 2021 Stone Mills municipal budget with the corrected percentage impact to be a weighted assessment for the municipality. We're looking tonight for the second reading. I have a motion for the, before we go any further, okay, well, if we have no discussion on this tonight or something like that, we could do the third reading if there is no changes. Christina, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I did make an error on the comparison number between the two tax rates. And that was between the 2020 rate. I had put in 2019's rate. So the actual reduction in rate is 0.77, not 0.6. But it doesn't impact anything else. It doesn't impact the amount we're looking to raise for taxation. It doesn't impact the amount of money we're asking for. It's just strictly that comparison number. So I do apologize.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead, Kevin.
Were there changes on that? I couldn't pull that up. It wouldn't come up on my computer. And then, so I did it on my own iPad, which is very small. So I sort of tried to look through it. Were there changes there? And could we not get those marked, Christina, so we know what was changed? I mean, I went through what I could of it, but I don't know what was changed or what wasn't changed. Like there was no defining mark as to this was changed or that was changed.
So the only thing I changed in this one was the comparison rates. The prior budget that we had on our last agenda before that was the changes that you guys had authorized.
Okay, so that was the same then.
Yeah, that's the
Thank
only
you.
change.
So your
Brian,
worship,
you're on the screen. Go ahead.
if I may, just to clarify, Councillor Richmond, the only change was we utilized as part of the budget comparators numbers. If you recall, we quoted in the narrative that the tax rate would go down individually by 6.21%.
Right.
That was using 2019's assessment, not 2020's. So your tax rate will actually go down 0.77% rather than that previously relayed number. So
Mhm.
it's not any more dollars. It's still a 1.26% increase in dollars, but it's a reduction to the rate of 0.77, not the previously listed higher percentage.
So it's still at 1.2% decrease.
It is. It's still
Okay.
it's still a 1.26% in dollars, which is what we were asked to present the budget in. It's actually that impact is 0.77 is the decrease, Councillor Richmond.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have your hand up, John? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So there was a late request for a donation. At least I got an email from Friends of the Napanee River, and they were looking for $500. And I'm wondering how people feel about inserting that into the budget. I know this is late, but that's a valuable organization, and I'd be in favor of it. But I realize it's a bit late. I just wonder how people are feeling about that.
We'll go to Brian, then we'll go to Doug. Go ahead, Brian.
Worship, that donation line item is actually already capable of being
Already there.
as part of the budget. It's just the allocation that council can approve to go towards that organization. We have approximately $2,000 in that line item that comes in for specific circumstances that are not known at budget time for circumstances for council to approve. So if council wishes to earmark that this evening, we're happy to allocate that out.
Okay, Doug, you had your hand up.
Well, I was just gonna say the same thing. It was part of the budget allocation. That number, it was used the same number as last year, of which the Friends got that 500.
Okay. You want to go ahead, John?
So, Brian, if I understand it, that donation line it's usually 2,000 or 2,500 each year. Is there a specific designation at this point, or do you need a motion to put 500 of that towards the budget, the request from the Friends of the Napanee?
So the donation line item that's in the budget is much larger than that number. There's $2,500, I believe, that's not earmarked for additional requests that come to council. Council would have to give us a motion to allocate that $500 towards that organization, which would leave us with approximately $2,000 flexible for the rest of the year.
Okay, well, I will make that motion then, that we allocate
Motion by John, second by Wenda.
Yes.
Okay, any questions on that? All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Any other comments for Christina on the budget? Christine, do you have anything else to report?
No, I do not.
Okay, so we have a motion in front of us. So as I said earlier, we can go second reading, or do you want to go second, third tonight? It's entirely up to you, but or just want to stick to the motion. Okay, go ahead, Wenda.
I suggest second and third tonight.
Okay, anybody else? Sherry?
I would second that.
I'll just go around the table here. Kevin, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm not opposed to it in some ways, but in another way, if something else comes in, just as John has brought up here tonight, we might be able to deal with it within the budget if we just go with the second reading and then do the third the next meeting. That's all I have to say on it.
Okay, well, I guess let's go with the second reading here because we have different people here. And that's so I need approval for a second reading.
I would so move.
Moved by Debbie, second by John. All in favor? Carried. Debbie, we can see you on the screen now, so.
Oh, can you? I can't see anybody else, so.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, we still look the same, Deb.
When did you have something to say?
Yeah, just before we go into for Christina on the third reading then, when I was going through the budget line by line, there were some big ticket items that I was aware of because, you know, we've been involved in this process for a couple of months now, but I'm wondering if there could be some additional information on at the end of towards the right column. She did, or a lot of it was done already in other items, but there was one $700,000. And I thought, you know, for someone who hadn't been following through the process of creating this budget, they might be a little bit alarmed about that $700,000 because there was really no, there wasn't a detailed description to give you a good enough idea what that line item was pertaining to. So just if I'd be happy to send her a few that I kind of picked out that I thought would be nice to have a little more information contained in that document for the constituents.
Okay, good enough. So I guess we're all in favor of the second reading tonight. Everybody in favor? Maybe we already did this. No, carried. Okay, we'll go down to the manager planning. No, Treasurer Bouchard, Snow Mills Council Payable. I'm looking for a motion to the council payable. Moved by Kevin, second by Sherry. Any questions? Christina? All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Anything you want to add, Christina?
I don't think she heard Jerry.
Did you have anything to add, Christina?
Yes, but
Okay.
I can't hear you. Just a second.
Well, I can barely hear you at times. You're in and you're out.
Your worship, if I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
in the absence of the treasurer being able to speak, I want to provide an update on her behalf with regards to the tax sale process that we have endured here at the township. So we had two tax sale properties which were brought to council and agreed upon to have posted. The first property was actually paid out prior to the completion date. We had 46 packages that we had to return, and we turned a number of others away. The second process was very similar, except we went through the tender opening process. I believe we opened 47 bids, and the property owner actually paid out the taxes after we opened the tender. So we sought legal advice as to the responsibility of the municipality, and without the cancellation of the tax registration, the property owner still has the ability to pay up until the time of that cancellation. So we have since returned the deposit to the highest bidder and processed the payment of the property owners. So we, in essence, had no tax sale properties change hands. They were both paid out prior to the end of process.
Any questions? Go ahead, John.
Is that a typical number of bids on a tax sale property, Brian? And 4 dozen each one?
No, I think that's just a sign of the value of land at this time. And they were essentially created lots. One was a 50-acre parcel. The other was a 1-acre lot that was able to be built upon. So obviously the larger parcel brought in a lot of interest, and the 1-acre lot had interest because it was already established and essentially could be built on. So I think those numbers are high, certainly for our township, but not uncommon with the way that other tax sale municipalities are experiencing right now with the amount of movement in land.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Christina. Can you hear me
Sorry
now?
about that. Yes,
Oh, that's
now I
all right.
can.
Good, okay. Okay, CAO Brooks, 2021 Stone Mills Budget Compensation Report. I'm looking for a motion that council receive the Township of Stone Mills Compensation Grid for 2021. Moved by Wenda, second by John. Any questions, Brian?
Yeah, Eric,
Hand up, go ahead.
I'd like a recorded vote on this.
Okay, before we get there, we'll, any questions for Brian on this? Go ahead, John.
Yeah, just to clarify, this isn't to receive, it is to approve.
Just to approve.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, to approve, yes.
That is correct. Your worship, with the council's request, there is one additional further that I wish to add to the motion if council will be amenable. And that is there's an absence of the $1 per hour for the winter hours in the recommendation. It's in the report. It's just not included in the report recommendation. So prior to the last section, it would be further that council approve the $1 per hour for the public works employees for the winter season. So that was already been discussed by council and endorsed in principle as the budget proceeded. It's just not included in that recommendation. So I'm looking for your permission to do so.
Okay, with that addition to the report, the mover, okay with that?
Yes.
And the seconder?
Yep.
Okay, fine. So no more questions. We'll have recorded vote. I'm going to start. We'll go across my screen. Right to left, Councillor Davison,
No.
Councillor Milligan,
Yes.
Councillor Richmond,
No.
Councillor Lalonde,
Yes.
Councillor Thompson,
yes,
Deputy Reeve Wise,
Yes.
Reeve Smith says yes. So the motion is carried. You got that, Brian?
I do, your worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Public Works Manager Thompson, he can talk about the Waste Hazardous Day.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was notified yesterday about the cancellation of Household Hazardous Waste Day that was scheduled for the 17th at our yard. The contractor or the company called to cancel it due to the recent announcement by the province. So there's no date set for rescheduling yet, but he indicated that timelines were pretty tight for the summer season as things keep getting pushed back for them.
Any
That'll be on our Facebook page and social media, and the signs that we had made at the landfills. We've got red lettering canceled to go over top of them for tomorrow.
Okay, go ahead, Wenda.
This is a little bit off topic, but the large item pickup day, I haven't seen a date for that, and I wonder, do you think that will be canceled as well?
We've been working on that for 2 or 3 weeks and no response from our contact at Waste Management yet.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff. Do we need a motion for that report, Brian?
Your worship, I just have that added into the minutes that there was an
Okay.
update of the cancellation of the hazardous waste day by the vendor with no alternative date selected.
Okay, thank you. Fire Chief Thompson, 2021 Rescue Pumper RFP report, and looking for a motion to receive the report titled and the new rescue pumper, further that council authorizes staff to proceed with awarding of the Dart Fire Incorporated. We have a motion for the report, and then we'll draft Jeff, moved by Doug, second by Sherry. Okay, questions for Jeff? Or Jeff, you want to report on? Go ahead.
Yeah, if everyone had a chance to read the attachments in the report, it's pretty self-explanatory. So if anybody has any questions to add to that, I'll answer them.
Okay, all in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Fire Safety Grant Agreement, the council receives the report titled Fire Safety. Looking for a motion to receive the report, moved by Sherry, second by Debbie. Anything on that, Jeff, for you?
No, that's the first of 2 grants that were announced. The next grant will be 500 million. And our share, I believe, was 67,000 that we have to report on. So that'll be coming once more information comes available.
Okay, fine. All in favor of the report? Motion, sorry, carried. Chief Building Official Detler, an update on Camden East Post Building lease requirements. And there is looking for council to receive the report, and then we'll discuss it. Moved by John, second by Kevin. Any questions for Jake, or Jake, you want to fill in here first? Go ahead.
Yeah, after the last meeting, thank you, Your Worship. After the last meeting, council wanted an update on what was happening with the post office services and Camden East. And I'm happy to report that something is happening, and that there is a looks to be a lease agreement between a current owner of a commercial property and Canada Post, and they seem to be moving quickly now. I know it's been slow getting here, but quickly now with getting some renovations. I haven't received a building permit application, but it seems as though they're going to put in an application to do some renovations where the new post office is going. So,
Any questions? We'll start with Doug and then we'll go to Kevin.
Yeah, Jake, when I was reading the report, there's a line in there that says that they haven't had any contact with JL or whatever for some time. So do they have a signed agreement?
yeah, thank you, Councillor Davison. I think I wrote in there that I hadn't received any response from JLL, but the commercial property owner in Camden East has had lots of contact with them. So they're not talking to me right now because I think they're waiting for the lease to be signed before they return my email, Doug.
Okay, back to you, Kevin.
So I guess you're not going to tell us who it is, Jake. So you can't tell us who it is because they don't want it out until the lease is signed. Is that right?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Yes, there's only 2 commercial properties in Camden East, so I think you could probably put it together.
Right. And Jake, is like, how long is the lease? Are they ever going to want a building now, or are they just looking at staying where they're getting the lease, or how's that work? Or have you had any discussion with them on that? I mean, if we build a post office, do they want it, or are we not going to build one, or what's the story on that side of it?
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I would suggest that our leases that we signed dating back with the old post office is now torn down were 5-year terms. And I would suggest that they're probably signing a 5-year term right now with this commercial property owner. And I would say that we shouldn't be building a post office in Camden East right now because we would have no post office tenant to go in there. So,
right. So yeah, so it's like a 5-year then. That's what I was wondering. Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Doug.
So, okay, that's good to hear, Jake, that we will see postal services in the near future in Camden East. As I think we're all aware, it's way too long, the current situation. Any idea when we are going to be able to go in and clean up the lot? And it is spring, and it seems to be moving a little slowly there.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I would think that so right now, just for your information, for council's information, we have on our website, and also we have some posters up and out on Facebook. We're currently canvassing for some ideas about what we could do with the vacant lot, or what we would potentially do with it, and we're hoping to put all of that information and all those ideas together in a report to come to council in hopefully May.
Go ahead, Doug.
That may be fine, but the first thing we're going to do is clean the lot up before we do anything else. And I mean, it's time that the lot was cleaned up. So do we have any estimation of completion time so that we can go in there and make it look neat?
I can answer that. So, I mean, when Westendorf pulls out, Councillor Davison, they're supposed to leave that area where the building is and the other areas around it with a gravel finish. And everything's supposed to look like there's not supposed to be a mess there left over. I don't know exactly. I mean, I think what you may be saying, Councillor Davison, is that, we would start to do, walking areas and stuff like that. I mean, I think we should let it up to the public to see what their vision is before we start to finish it. But I mean, when Westendor pulls out, everything, all the basically is supposed to be an empty lot with gravel. So it shouldn't look like a mess.
Well, I certainly hope we're not planning on turning it into a parking lot. To me, I would like to see an empty lot with soil on it so that it could grow grass. Okay, for the time being. And I think it's time we seen a completion date.
Okay, so we
I'll
have a
just
motion,
leave it at that.
have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thanks, Jake. Public Works Department Building Repair Report.
Sorry, Your Worship.
Sorry. Oh,
Did I miss a mover and a seconder to receive that report?
Yeah, we had a mover in a second. Who was that?
I don't think we had one yet, Your Worship. I don't think
We
we had a seconder for that report yet.
Okay, I have a mover, moved by John, second by Debbie.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. The next one is that Public Works Department Building Repair Report that council endorses CBO Detler to engage local engineering firm Rear Galloway in creating the series of recommendations for the repairs of public works grid. Go ahead, Jake, and then we'll.
Yeah, before I can just say, I just want to respond to Doug. If you weren't by it today, the building's gone, and there was no building left. So, I mean, if you haven't buy it in a few days. They actually did a ton of work there today. So, on to the next report. Yeah, I met with Greer Galloway there in February to kind of get something started in terms of the cleanup of the public works building that we have money allocated in our budget for. This is the initial report. I just wanted to bring in council for an update that we're moving in and doing something. And this is the first step to hopefully getting that building looked after and renovated and finding out, the solutions to the problems that it has. Just wondering if anybody has any questions.
Jake, we have a gentleman on here, Rick Rooney. He's with the company doing the work?
Yes, Your Worship. He is actually for the fourth item on my agenda. I have a few items here today. So, Rick, is there any way you could just, I guess, black out your video for the time being until the solar item comes in? Thanks, Rick.
Sorry about that. Okay, so I need a motion to receive the report. Moved by Sherry, second by Kevin. All in favor? Carried. Okay, Building Department electric vehicle purchase. Go ahead, Jake.
Yes, so this is the third item. Did some talking with the mechanic. I think I can manage to stay on roads with these new vehicles and try not to get stuck and maybe use my feet and get some more exercise in the future. And that way I could probably save the township some money on the purchasing of these electric vehicles and hopefully get the $5,000 federal rebate as well for the purchase. And Stone Mills Public Works wants to put out their tenders soon, so I would like to put it out with them next week or this week. Just wondering what everybody's thoughts are on that.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think that's great. And thank you, Jake, for sacrificing your comfort for the citizens of Stone Mills. Yeah, that's excellent. And I would move the recommendation.
Second by Sherry. Kevin, do you have a question?
Yeah, I did. I'm just wondering, Jake, if it wouldn't hurt to get some quotes on some four-wheel drives as well. Just because I know you're working around work sites and such, and maybe it wouldn't hurt to get some quotes on the four-wheel drive as well. If there's not a lot of difference, it might be reasonable to go with the four-wheel drive.
You okay with that motion, John?
Well, that's what we had before. I thought we were moving away from the 4-wheel drive because they were $10,000 more or something like that, and we couldn't get the federal grant. Is that not correct, Jake?
Yes, your worship. I'm not aware of a car that comes in the all-wheel drive option that you'd get the federal grant for. There's at least 2 models, which are probably the cheapest SUVs on the market, that don't come in all-wheel drive options. So as soon as you say, give me a 4-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive option, those probably most cost effective vehicles are not going to be able to tender in on that. So yeah, we could put something together. It might be confusing to go with 2 options. Yeah, I just think we just go for the 2-wheel drive options. We save the money and we look a little bit better maybe in taxpayers' eyes, given that, they'll be more affordable and we'll get a federal rebate for them. So.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Information reported on the rooftop solar project. Go ahead, Jake.
Yes, this is where Rick Rooney, owner of Quantum Renewables, can come on. Rick provides all of our solar maintenance right now for the solar projects on the roofs at Centerville Yard. And Rick's in here if you have any questions about, the future of solar panels, where the industry's going, how our panels are working right now, what the expected output of those panels would be in 2030. Those sort of questions, he can help us if you have questions to get through this, because to be honest with you, Rick knows a lot more about this in terms of solar power than I do. So just wondering what people thought of the report and if people have any questions for Rick or me.
Okay. First thing, welcome, Rick, and thank you for taking time to attend our meeting.
Well, thank you. You're welcome.
Anybody have any questions for John? I guess you can direct your questions who you want to.
Yeah, for Rick.
John?
Hi, Rick. How are you?
Good. Good to see you, John.
Yeah, nice to see you too. So I did read the report. I just can't remember if it mentioned what the I guess the output drop would be by the end of the current contract, and after that, is that a linear decline, the decrease in efficiency, or is there some point where it falls off a lot?
So really good question, and I don't think the industry knows for sure. So just to give you a little background history, about 15 years ago, they were giving 15, 20-year warranties on panels. Now the industry standard is a 25% or 25-year performance warranty, where they warranty that the panels, they being the manufacturer, warranty that the panels will produce 80% of the rated output, 80% or greater. What we've seen over the 10 years of the microfit program of systems that we have tested is much less. Typically the few systems that we've done performance testing on, we've seen maybe a 5% decrease over the last 10 years. Most warranties say a 20% decrease equates to 0.7% per year. And answer to your question, John, is it is thought to be linear, that it will just slowly degrade as the sun breaks the cell down. So the industry doesn't exactly know what's going to happen. We are seeing panels that are 35 years old that are still producing, and I wish I could promise the same. I don't know exactly what the crystal ball will tell us. I'd like to think that the manufacturing process has only improved over time and become more tighter controls on quality assurance, so that there is less variation, and we will see panels that last well in excess of 20, 25 years. So I think the questions seem to be at the end of your 20-year fit program, what to do with the equipment. And my mind is just turn it over into a net metered system. So I imagine when whoever entered into the fit contract, there was some number crunching that went on to decide whether or not the 20-year contract would be profitable for the township, and which it will be. I'm very certain that all these fit projects are quite profitable. So by the end of that 20 years, you will have already realized that profit that you were already planning on. Everything else I would call is just gravy. So, the system may be performing at 80% or 75%, but your capital costs are paid for, your equipment's on the roof, just net meter it, offset your facility usage, and just let it keep going as long as it goes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for joining with us, Roger. Rick, sorry. Actually, it was, I think, my question at the last meeting that started this conversation. And my reason for the question was not to dispose of the equipment, but to understand what our path forward was and our cost. My method of operation is that I always like to plan ahead. And so we're currently paid for making a profit now and will for the next 8-9 years. But at the end of the 20-year contract, the very lucrative contract that we have of 73 cents a kilowatt hour certainly isn't going to be renewed. And
correct.
Maybe will be renewed, maybe at something lower, drastically lower, or maybe not. So that's the question. How much money do we need to make this system either a usable, to continue to use the system in some form for ourselves, whether it be a converter or inverter and battery banks, what is it? But we need to put money ahead before we get to that point and find out we got a big bill. So that's
good
the
question.
information I'm looking for.
Yeah, so good question. So I would be very confident in saying that the panels themselves are not going to have a problem as far as longevity, that you'd see 25 plus years on the panels. But the microinverters, the power electronics that are behind there, are, as you may know, are having some failure rates. They're covered under warranty for a 20-year warranty. So the material is covered right now for the next 12 years or however many years of your contract still. However, at some point, probably at the 20-year mark, you're probably going to have to swap those out. So, right now, a rough cost would be around $150 per panel, let's say, because those are microinverters. So that's the replacement cost that you'd be looking at for the power electronics. All the rest of the infrastructure, I think, has quite a longevity to it, as far as the racking and the panels and wiring and such.
So you're saying that on the idea that we would continue to supply into the electrical grid.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So what I think does need to be figured is that right now a net metered system is net metering at about 18 cents per kilowatt hour when we factor in delivery charges that are per kilowatt hour. We typically see somewhere around 8% per year increase over the last 10 years. We've seen 8% per year increase in our electricity rates. I would anticipate that we'd see something similar. So 10 years from now, I'm not the math whiz to figure out what that number is, but I think that would be the number that you could maybe bank on as far as what your per kilowatt hour price is. It won't be 73 cents. It won't be that high, or at least I hope it's not that high, but somewhere between 18 cents and 73 is where it will be, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Rick, at the end of the life of those panels, down the road, whether it's 20 years from now or whatever, how do they have to be disposed of? Like, I've heard different people talk, well, they have to be sent away and they have to be processed and all this stuff. And I never did hear from anybody that was knowledgeable as to what has to be done with them. Once they take them off the roof, what do you do with them, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
So I'll tell you what is happening in Europe, which is much further advanced than we are, because they've seen 20 years worth of panels. So they're starting to see first generation starting to degrade. They have recycling programs. There is a lot of misinformation out there about toxic leaching from panels. The panels you've got are very basic monocrystalline or polycrystalline silicon panels. So there aren't any harmful chemicals embedded in that material. It's these other fancy panels that they use on satellites or high performance items that would have more dangerous chemicals in them or elements in them that you don't want to leach into the water. So what we anticipate, there isn't currently a recycling program, but we fully anticipate that North America, will follow what's happening in Europe, and recycling will be a reality. Just the same way right now, there's a fantastic recycling for batteries. About 90% of the battery is reused, is recycled, reused. So there is a good recycling program there. So I think it's just a matter of the silicone within the panels is of value. So once they decide to set up that recycling program, I would anticipate that that's what would happen, is you'd send it off to the facility, and there may even be some reclaim value to it, like batteries or copper wire is right now, if you take that to a recycling center.
Well, that's good news. One other question, if I could.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Maybe more for Jake. When they're redoing or fixing our barn over there, is there any issue with the panels on the roof, or do we know that yet? As far as having to remove or replace or anything when we try and fix the leakage there?
Thank you, Councillors Richmond. I don't think there's any problems. The solar panels are actually on a racking system where they just attach to the seamless steel. There's no penetrations. There's the panels themselves aren't causing the issue. It's other issues that I'll be bringing forth to council when they finish their report. But it's not the solar panels aren't causing the issues. So.
No, it's the water inside the building that's causing the issue.
Well,
but I just wonder.
That's probably playing a part of it. Like I said, the report will say that, but the work that we're going to be doing, I don't foresee ever having to touch a panel or remove any panels or put panels back together. It'll all be happening inside the building. So
good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Jake or Rick? I guess seeing none. Thanks a lot, Rick. Appreciate your time.
Okay, thanks. And feel free, Jake, send questions to me before. I'm more than happy to respond to any questions if you come up with things after the meeting.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Looking for a motion to receive the report. Moved by Kevin, second by Sherry. All in favor? Motion's carried. Items for information. 2020 Emergency Management Civil Protection Act, notice of compliance. Now, can we have a motion to receive? Unless somebody has something on. Moved by John, second by Debbie. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. The 2021 gas tax top-up allocation notice one time. Who wants to talk about that there, Brian, or this? I know it's straightforward, or anybody on there?
Your worship, I can answer that, but the host has actually stopped my ability to see the video, so I hope that's okay. It's coming here now. Okay, thank you.
There you go.
So we received notification late last week that we're receiving a one-time gas tax top-up allocation, which essentially almost duplicates our annual value. The notice is included in the agenda and will result in additional $230,000 that will be able to be used by the municipality for gas tax eligible projects. So oddly, mostly the communication is cleaner air, cleaner water, cleaner emissions, energy efficient type projects, as well as transportation based projects. So at this time, we're not suggesting that council allocate that funds to any specific project rather than, and gas tax also is allowed to be retained for up to 3 years. So at this point, we're not looking to amend our budget, but rather keep this in a reserve capacity for future projects so that we don't have to utilize taxpayer dollars to offset some of those capital projects.
Any questions for Brian? Go ahead, Kevin.
Brian, just a quick question. Looking at it, and I don't understand how this comes about, and maybe you can explain it quickly. How come Loyalist Township gets more than Stone Mills? I always thought it was on the amount of the kilometers of road that you looked after, but I have no idea how they allocate it. So that's why I just wondered.
It's actually allocated based on a per capita basis. So the larger populations get a larger base. I wish it was based on the number of roads because it would be more equal, but unfortunately,
Yeah.
that wouldn't get the cities the investment for bridges, et cetera, that they require.
Okay, thank you. I wondered how it worked and I was looking at it, so thanks.
Any other questions? I'm looking for a motion to receive the report. Moved by Doug, second by John. All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. New business and statements for members. Oh, Brian, is Jason, I just got something. Is Jason in? Is he on screen at all or?
Yes, he's present. He's probably just coming live. If you just give him a second, Your Worship.
Oh, yeah. No, I just, Jason, you work with, I know with this COVID here, we're in the third stage here right now, and you work with the county on your economic development. Is there any programs out there, any grant money that can help these businesses?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, both Cindy Hike and I work with Stephen Paul and the county's economic development team. They have a small business coach, Ashley Arnold, as well as Rob Plumley, all working very closely with the provincial government on funding opportunity that exists for small businesses. We've largely based on expertise, we've set up our small businesses in direct communication with the counties and Stephen Paul and his group to make sure that they're best benefited, as well as the local Chamber of Commerce. That group, I say that group collectively are leading that, and the conversations are had more so directly with the county as opposed to the intermediary with us here at the township. So as much as we, Your Worship, are the catalyst in trying to make sure that they're connected with the proper experts with opportunity for funding, I am by no means the expert on determining which business qualifies for which provincial funding, for example. I leave that to the economic development group, but try and make sure those connections are had.
Because I'm just looking at this third wave here and the way things are going, there's some businesses that are going to be hurting pretty good out there. And I just wonder if they have the knowledge of if there is money out there or grants. That was my concern.
Great. It's a great question, Your Worship. And just further to that, as many of you are aware, CAO Brooks and I have been working ongoing on a community improvement plan here for the township of Stone Mills. And one of the things I would say, potential benefits of being tardy in our adoption and the continued efforts allow for some revisited opportunity or options that may exist in that funding, even at a municipal level, through a CIP fund for our commercial businesses and small businesses here in the township. So we have been working with the ministry, MMAH, on that with, as you know, the legislation is continuously changing with the states of emergencies that we're coming in and out of, and what opportunities for funding. So as we work forward to that adoption of a CIP, we are doing at staff level the best of our abilities to try and get the ever-changing legislative and financial opportunities built into it. So although it may not be significant for local business in terms of dollar figure, it does seem to present an opportunity for some of the small businesses through what we have to offer at the municipal level as well.
So I guess I'm saying if somebody wants to get involved with us here, give the office a call and you help them out.
Absolutely, Your Worship. Most definitely put them into contact with myself. And as I mentioned, I'm not the expert on all the provincial funding opportunities, but I can definitely get them to whom is in the knowledge of those.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else with new business and statements from members? Seeing none. Okay, we're going to go to the discussion of the Stone Mills Recreation 2021 season status. Go ahead, Brian or Jake or who's.
Your Worship, with the latest, when we posted this, we started the agenda prior to the Thursday announcement coming forward from Premier Ford with regards to the latest lockdown. As a result, in being a casualty of the 28-day emergency break, if you will, our arena was actually, the ice was actually the condensers were shut off on Saturday, and the ice was actually removed today. So by the time the emergency break is completed, we would have had to have our ice out for purposes of attempting to accommodate for the construction project going on there this summer. So we did receive a message late in the day from Al Fenwick at the arena saying that the ice removal went well, and they're just in the process of cleaning the floor in preparation for what might come in the summer.
Okay. Any questions, Brian? Can I have a motion to receive that report? Moved by Doug, seconded by Wenda. All in favor of the motion? Motion carried. I'm just going to go back one step here. John, if you don't mind me asking, you're on the health board, and if you heard how the cases are going or in reports that we should know at this level?
Well, what you see in the news is what I know too.
Okay.
There's no sort of inside info. I do know that we still have very low case numbers. I think in the 60s was the last time I looked, and maybe Sherry has information too, being at the medical office. I think I got the notice today. I'd have to make sure. Over half the cases that are active, and most of them are in Kingston, are new variants. So we have one of the highest levels on a percentage basis of infections with new variants of any area in the province, even though our actual numbers are lower than almost any other area. For some reason, people have brought these variants into the community, and they're super contagious. So even though numbers are low, risk of infection is pretty high. So that's kind of where we're at now, and I hope this emergency break or whatever they want to call it is going to have some effect. Yeah. My personal feeling is we need a much more severe and total lockdown, because most of these cases now seem to be coming in the essential worker population. They're coming in people who work at manufacturing plants, in schools, places like that. So keeping someone from going and getting a haircut isn't really going to make a huge difference. It's these places where people are still congregating for what are deemed to be essential reasons. And I don't know how you engineer it, because they're part of the functioning essential economy, but that's where the controls need to be in place. So it's a tough spot to be in. It's a race between getting everyone vaccinated and having these variants spread like wildfire.
Okay, thanks, John. Anything, Sherry, you'd like to say on that in the medical?
The only thing to say is I hope, like for so long, over a year now, everyone's been, told to follow all these rules, and we never really did see a spike here. And my biggest worry is that we're so complacent about it now that we think some people are vaccinated, so we're home free, and we're far from it, because we're literally seeing the variants in our own community, like right here. It's no longer far away. So I don't know. All along I've wished they would just do a real lockdown where you could really, like, literally get groceries and stay home. I think that's the only way we'll ever get ahead of it. But, yeah.
Okay, thanks for the information, John and Sherry. With that being said, we're going to go to the confirming bylaw motion. For the confirming bylaw, moved by Doug, second by Kevin. All in favor of the motion? Motion carried. Motion to adjourn. Moved by John, seconded by Wenda. All in favor? Okay, thanks everybody, and everybody stay healthy.
Enjoy the weather.
Yes,
Yeah.
Good night, folks.